Living in Highland, Indiana explained. Hey, if you lived in Highland, Indiana your whole life, or this is your first time hearing about Highland and you're just starting to learn, this video is for you. We have content for the seasoned resident or someone just checking out the area for the very first time. Hey, in this video, we're gonna check out the location of exactly where is Highland. We're gonna the history, similar towns. So like, hey, if you're interested in Highland, what other towns might you be interested in? Commuting, demographics, schools, crime, water, things to do, taxes, home prices, and much more. Yeah, so for history, in 1847, two pioneers from Ohio, Michael and Judah Johnson, became Highland's first settlers. The town slowly expanded until the 1880s, and the development of the Chicagoland Atlantic Railroad trackage through the town attracted ag and manufacturing industries. Dutch settlers began moving to Highland shortly after from nearby Munster. 304 people resided in Highland when it was incorporated in 1910. And actually, before we get all into the history, let's take a look at the map. So Highland, as you can see here, we are right over the Illinois border. So we got the Illinois border here. We got Highland. So some main roadways through, let me go full screen on here. So the main roadways here, let me zoom out to the city. So a lot of activity from Northwest Indiana is resulting from kind of being like a Chicago suburb. Some Northwest Indiana people don't like hearing that it's a suburb, but that's what drives a lot of this area. So if I'm looking at, so here's downtown Chicago here, and so to get to Highland from downtown, you take 94 on 294, and so this would be your main shot up there. 80, it's 8094 is what it's called, which goes east-west and gets you out to, you know, east-west continues to Michigan, Chesterton, Portage, all that good stuff. So we'll come back to this map view soon, but just wanted to give a little perspective as to where Highland is, how you get to it, and how close to Illinois it is. So we'll go back to our slide deck here. Yeah, so here's just some quick facts on Highland. Population is about 24,000. It's a little more female than male. 43.6 is the average age, so I'm still below that. So about 71,000 median income. Median rent's $1,100, almost $1,200. Cost of living is a little less than the U.S. average. Property taxes we're about $1,845. It's probably actually a little higher. Some of that data is a little older, but we'll see it on another slide. And then we just get some more information about people in the area. Cool, so relative cost of living, this is just a US slide if you're curious about how it is for the area. We'll see that, so Highland here is, where are we, really like right here in this Northwest Indiana area. So they group us in with Chicago, and that's not 100% accurate, but it shows you it's about the average. So Highland would be a lower cost of living, generally speaking, for Northwest Indiana than some of the other towns, basically based off of housing costs. Hey, a quick introduction about myself. My name is Tony Anczer, real estate agent serving Indiana and Illinois. Here's my contact info. I'd love to work with you guys if you're interested in housing in the area or just want more information. So get back to Highland, Indiana. So these slides are just going to go through, you know, what are the people like in the area. So this slide is from citydata.com on religions. So you got 44% report none, 20% Catholic, 20% evangelical Protestant, and then the others. You can read the rest here. Highland demographics. So this slide, as you can see here, just talks about what the demographics are in Highland. You got about 73% white, 5% black, 17% Hispanic, 3% Asian. Population, seeing population has been relatively stable. Highland's pretty built out as a town, so there's not really much new places to build, so it would expect population to be pretty steady. All right, this slide's going to talk about commuting. So with commuting, there's a few different options. This slide gets a little text heavy, but we have an exhibit here that will show what the options are. So this is like the Illinois side. We wouldn't really necessarily, from Highland here, these are like the Illinois options. I wouldn't recommend. There's another slide here for Indiana, but you could pick up one of these Illinois ones, or what you would do is you would hit the South Shore train. And so with South Shore train, you would go to Hammond or East Chicago, or maybe even Headwest. So one of these spots here is where you would go to if you wanted to take the train to the city. And yeah, cool. This gets us into politics. This just shows how people voted. I found that this doesn't necessarily represent how people really feel sometimes versus how they vote. 1650 adds up to more than 100%. But anyway, you can see here what how the constituents voted for Highland. With crime, how it is 50 is like the average. So it's a little hard to interpret, but you're right around, you know, being from the area, like Highland's a pretty safe town in my opinion. So, but this slide just gives you some information on that. We have another slide that compares it to other towns in the area, which I think might be next here. Okay, here we go, crime rate. So Highland, 102, and, okay, so wait, here's the blurb here. 2022 crime rate in the Highland is 102, which is 2.5 times smaller than the US average. It was higher than 51% of the US cities. Looks like crime has been decreasing is what this shows. And then, so the other towns, again, that are nearby it is Griffith is just to the east. That's a little less. Munster, just to the west. Cherville, south. Dyer, south. Hammond to the north. So you'll see there's a big spike. One thing to note between Hammond and then actually Gary's to the northeast too, and Gary's even higher, is that there's the boundary line of I-80 kind of separates those towns pretty significantly. So let me show you that here. So you got Highland here, and then this road here, 8094, is like a big dividing line between the towns to the north and towns to the south, because you do have Gary over here, and Gary's going to be the most crime heavy town in northwest Indiana for the most part. And then 8094 is a strong, you can walk across, but it's like, if you were to walk across, you'd have to go through all this and what have you. So it's pretty much a wall that divides the towns in the area. I also want to plug one of my other videos. If you do YouTube search for, or link below, Northwest Indiana. This video goes into each town. It gives like a few minutes into each town. So especially if you're new to the area, that's a great video. I find a lot of out-of-town people really get a lot of value out of this. So that might be interesting of you too. And we a video like this, the ultimate guide to Highland, Indiana. We have this for we have them for most of these towns, or working on them for others. So if you wanted to look through our playlist or just do a YouTube search for these towns, you'll find my videos pretty easily. This is just the town rating from niche.com. So niche.com is a pretty cool website. If you want to check that out, you can get some more information about just towns in general. Niche.com gives Highland a minus, and this is the metrics that they rate it off of. This line here is the Illinois-Indiana border. And so most of Indiana, all this yellow, is Eastern time zone. And what's interesting about Northwest Indiana is that we are in the Central time zone. And a big part of that is because, you know, Chicago, say, is up here. Northwest Indiana is a lot of it's just the main suburb from Chicago, and so they've been kept on the same time zone. So just to note that if you go a little further south in Indiana, then even though on like the latitude lines you're in the same spot, the time zone does switch to Eastern time zone. Now this slide is, I find, of interest because Lake Michigan water and well water in a town is pretty significantly different. Like I live in St. John, Indiana, and we have to have a water softener. And with the water softener, the water's fine. I grew up on well water, as a disclaimer there. But so in Highland, Indiana, so if you have well water, you would have issues like this can result, where you could get a water staining on your house from watering. You can get a white buildup on, like at our dishwasher. Our refrigerator has that at the bottom where you fill up with water and you get little drips. You can see some white residue buildup. That's what hard water will do. This is for how you treat. This is like a water softener system, and it can get into more details on that. But Highland, you don't really have to worry though, because in Highland, we get Lake Michigan water from Hammond. And this gets a little more into the slides about how much the city water supply. And so each town in Illinois and Indiana has what's called a consumer confidence report that's required by the EPA. And when you check this thing out, of which it's linked there, and you can we can zoom in on this URL so you can see what that is this gives you the details as to the water. So every town has to do this detailed sampling every year. And let me blow this up here. So if you're curious about like water quality, then this tells you what all the lab testing results were. So yep, so that's the consumer confidence report. And then this thing, you could rotate it, but it gets you just more information on water supply. Okay, cool. So interactive map, this is my reminder to jump back to Google Earth. And so in the Google Earth here, again, I'm going to drive just a little more into the town itself and like the area. So again, Highland is right here. And your neighboring towns to the east here is Griffith. Here, let me turn on my cool drawing function again. So we got Griffith here. I'm gonna switch to white, it might show up a little better. We got Munster to the left. We got Cherville and Dyer, and then Hammond to the northwest, and then Gary to the northeast. So we have a slide here that talks about what housing prices are and whatnot, but generally speaking, for the towns south of I-80, so it says 94, but it's 80-94 here, that Highland and Griffith are gonna have, on affordability, Highland and Griffith are more affordable than a lot of towns in the area. I mean, the appreciation, like everywhere, has gone up pretty crazy over the last recent years. So, but Highland and Griffith, these towns have a pretty similar feel to them. So Highland does have a downtown, and it's like right off a Ridge Road. So if you're coming in, the main way to get in is this 80-94 to Indianapolis Boulevard, which is Highway 41. To Ridge Road, and then there's a bit of a downtown here with like the main square park. Let me throw my drawing app back on. And yeah, so here's the square park. So the downtown area is over here. You got like a coffee house, cafe. So it's pretty cool. In the area, Griffith right next door has a little more robust downtown. And I'm just eyeing where the train is because that's where it starts basically. So right over here, that's got a pretty cool downtown, this whole strip. You can walk up and down, and they got restaurants and all that good stuff there. Some other area attractions is Crown Point, Indiana has a really cool downtown. Some Crown Point to Griffith's probably 20 minutes or something. And hopefully it's been a little too much while I was looking away. And show you that downtown is right here. And so this is Crown Point's downtown is one of the main destinations in Northwest Indiana for, so they have, like here is Bulldog Park that was built a couple years ago, and they always have like street fest and stuff like that. And then also in Highland, Indiana, right next to that's what we're talking about. Highland, Indiana has a Wicker Memorial Park. And so there's a golf course here, but they have lots of events here. They'll have concert series in the summer and walking paths. And they got really cool parks. Pretty sure there's a splash pad here too. So that's a pretty neat destination. And then one thing that my family has made use of over the years is that not too far down the street in Munster they have a community pool. Let's see if I can find that in a moment here. Community pool, which is I believe right over here. Yeah, right here, I think. So yeah, this is it. And so that's a pretty cool spot because you're right next door. And with the pool, it's nice because you don't have any like certain hours you're locked into. You can go if you have a membership, it's like I think $300 or $350 for the year. And that'd be a really cool spot to go to if it's right down the street a bit. And then also while we have the map open, I'll show you some of the other, I know we're focusing on the Indiana side, but just to get familiar with the area, let me turn on my Illinois towns. So you can see the Illinois towns over here. And from Highland, if you were like to say do like grocery shopping and stuff like that, Highland has some smaller stores in it, but then you go south just a little bit to Cherville, right down the street, right down Highway 41 here. And right by 41 and 30, there's a number of grocery stores and things like that. So right down the street, you'd be able to get anything you need. And then if you were to do a stock up, like my wife still does, is headed out to Maryville. They have, you can see here, like the Costco warehouse. So you're, you know, a 15-minute ride or so out to Maryville. And then there's also in Maryville, there is it's actually Hobart. There is the shopping mall here, the South Lake Mall is what that's called here. So within, you know, pretty close proximity, you've got access to anything and everything you need. Also with Highland is that if you were to say go to the city for, you know, barring traffic, if you were to go to the city from Highland, it's only like a 30 to 40-minute ride without traffic, because you just hop right on the expressway here, right on 94 up to, you know, 8094 to 94 to the city. And then you're right there. So it's a pretty quick ride if you wanted to catch a Sox or Cubs game, or you go to a concert downtown. And then, yeah, there's a bunch of other area stuff too you could do. There's the casinos along Whiting, there's the lakefront, and we'll have another slide that gets into some of the other things to do in the area. Cool. And going into schools, so public schools are Highland High School, Highland Middle School, Southridge Elementary School, Judith Morton Johnson Elementary, Allen Warren Elementary School, Mildred Merkley Elementary School, and then I'll show where these are here. So let me show you that. This is going to go back to Google Earth, and I'm going to turn on my school district layers. Okay, so here's Highland, and now I'm going to turn on the Highland School District. So Highland and the schools itself. Okay, so you'll see that in Highland, the town boundary is pretty much the school district. So it's different in Illinois. Like in Illinois, you could, there's a lot of school districts that creep into different towns, but in Indiana, in Highland, your town boundary is pretty much your school district. So we'll see that the schools here, the locations of them. So this will show the location, and then the next slides are gonna show what the school ratings are. So this is Allen J. Warren Elementary School. We got Mildred Merkley Elementary. You got Highland Middle School. We got Southridge Elementary School, and we got Judith Morton Johnson Elementary School. That's where the schools are at. So now let's take a look at how are these schools ranked. Yeah, so the school districts here, niche.com, that's where these rankings come from, give the Highland School District #9 best school districts in Lake County. Gives it an overall grade of B. You know, here's their metrics as to what it is. And I'm always interested in like the student to teacher ratio. Student to teacher ratio of 18:1, which is pretty good. All right, so now we'll go into the individual schools real quickly. So we've got, so Allen J. Elementary, a B with these metrics. Student to teacher ratio of 17:1. Judith Morton Johnson Elementary School, B. Here's their metrics, also 17:1. Mildred Merkley Elementary School, B+, and 17:1. And then again, in each of these, there's another, you know, paragraph here you could look at. B+ for Southridge Elementary School, 18:1. Highland Middle School, 18:1. B grade from niche.com. Highland High School, B+. And there's the reasons why, 16:1, which is pretty good. I also wanted to bring up the voucher program. So this is actually something my family benefits from, is the state of Indiana has a private choice voucher program. So it's Indiana Choice, as you can see here, Indiana Choice Scholarship Program, but it's also called the voucher program. It's used, I usually hear it more called the voucher program than anything else. And so in the state of Indiana, the state will give you, in Highland School District, I have to look it up, but it's like somewhere around, I think a little south of $6,000 a year towards private school tuition. And it's basically the only real metric to qualifying is what income is, and the income limits are pretty high. I think the current one is right around, if you have like a family of 4, so like mom, dad, 2 kids, if your family income is under 222,000, I think the latest I see, then you qualify, and that's pretty much the only real metric as to if you qualify or not. So that's good to know, and this works for, so our kids go to a private Christian school, and so there's a number of private school, a lot of private schools that are in the area that you could choose to send your kids to if you wanted to instead of the public school option. This gets into a slide just about how long this thing get to. So like say Chicago O'Hare Airport, if you were coming from Highland here, you see it's 48 minutes. The slide lists what the the time from the other towns are, and then you can use this kind of as an indicator to get to the city, like which towns are closer than others to commuting. When you get to taxes, this is not a tax bill in Highland, but just wanted to bring this slide up, is that Indiana, Northwest Lake County, you're capped at, for tax income, property income, income, I guess, and property taxes, you're capped at 1% of your assessed value. So if you have a $300,000 house, your assessed value is usually a little less, say it's $280. So your tax cap would be to $2,800, and then it can be a little higher if there's like a school referendum that was approved or something. They call that voter approved projects. And so with this just is how the tax bills look, is that, so this house in particular has an assessed value of $351,600. And so then you see here, I mean, here's a bunch of math, but then it says property tax cap, 1% of this number is 3516, and then this had some voter approved projects which made its assessed value be 4,300. So that's just so you can see how the math works on these. This slide just talks about home values, and this was as of, I pulled this research about, I don't know, a handful of months ago. So this just tells you what the median price is for, and since we're picking on Highland here, a median price, $253,000. What does that buy you? That could see like a 3-bed, 1-bath, almost 1,800 square foot house, and the latest days on the market was 8. So that tells you what the market time is. The highest that sold in the last 6 months was $615,000. But you can see this information for the other towns also here. Yeah, and we did a series of videos of how much do homes cost in each town. So if you look up how much do homes cost in Highland, Indiana, or whatever town, you'll find my video for that town. So we did it for all of Northwest Indiana and all of the South and West Illinois suburbs. And that will walk through in detail the different types. So it will show you, I go through, I do a home search, and they look at tons of different houses so you can see what the housing stock is like. So this is what I did a search here from January 1, 22 to the end of 2022, and that's what the tax amount was for Highland. I brought that. Okay, we talked about the tax cap. And then, oh yeah, this one good reminder here is that some people, especially out of the area, will see what the house prices are and the taxes, and they're very inclined to buy stuff for investment purposes. But just wanted to point out that if it's not an owner-occupied house, your tax cap is 2%, and that changes the finances on financial models for investment properties. When you buy a house in Northwest Indiana, you need to make sure you file that homeowner's exemption, because if you do, you get the 1%. But if you forget to file it, then you get the 2%. And they don't they won't refund you. The only way they'll refund you is that if you can prove that you did file and they just didn't apply it. This gets into income taxes for the area. I'll just go quickly through this. Is that so? The state of Indiana has a flat tax of 3.15 on income tax, but the counties can impose additional tax, and Lake County is 1.5. Yeah, so you add these up to get your total tax for the state and county. The state of Illinois is at 5%, but when you add these up together, you get 5.65, this guy plus this guy. So that just a heads up on that. Sometimes people just know about this and they think it's only 3.15%, but you got to add the county tax too. There's no sales tax on food. There's a sales tax of 7%, the state sales tax is 7%, but nothing on food. And municipalities cannot add additional taxes. Like in Illinois, you'll see that if you buy something, restaurant or whatnot, they have all kinds of supplemental taxes, like places for eating taxes and stuff like that. I won't get into this. You can read this if you like. This gets into other tax implications in the area. So I just looked up the latest data for Highland, and you can see it here that median sold price is $242,500, median days is 5. So that's of houses that have sold. That's pretty quick market time. List to sold is 100. So houses are selling slightly above what asking price is. These graphs here, there's a lot going on here, but I wanted to point out that this is housing prices in the area. So Indiana, this yellow line blinking on and off right now, that's the state of Indiana prices. The USA is this one, and then Highland is this blue line. So we see that Highland is been appreciating steadily since I guess, since I started tracking this in the system, and we're currently at all-time high prices. Okay, so now we have here, as I'm in my MLS view, and I just pulled up in Highland, 3-bed, 1.5 baths or more. That seems to be where a lot of people start their housing search at. And so I just wanted to pull up what that gets you. So this shows, let me just go to the list view. So for price points, I'm just doing this so that you can see what price points are. So starting off at so this is a townhouse here at 240, about 250,000. And you can see these different house types. So this guy is 307, is that this one? Yeah, 307,000 for a house like this. And I'll just look at a couple more real quick. And again, that other video I have, if you look up how much do homes cost in Highland, Indiana, you'll see a real deep dive into this. Here's what 330 gets you. It's a split level house. And let's go up to 400. So this is what 400 gets you. So 4-bed, 3-bath gets you at this price of the market for 2 days, 400,000. And let's just take a look at this guy. What is this? This is a 4-bed, also 3-bath. 4-bed, 3-bath. It's like a tri-level, maybe a quad. And this is 369,000. So just wanted to show you what some housing prices and options look like. Things to do, we talked about all these, make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, there is a really robust biking system through the region, and let me pull that up here. So through here, yeah, so Highland is here, and yeah, so there's a very robust biking system that goes through. There's this like Erie-Lackawanna Trail that I think it used to be it's like an old railroad track that was converted into a biking track, and it's like paved and everything. So if you're into biking, that's a really cool thing to do, like cycling. And then you can see how this road network of bikes all comes together. So that's a really cool thing. We talked about Wicker Memorial Park. This gets a little more detail into Wicker Memorial Park. So we got, yeah, splash pads and all this good stuff, walking paths. Again, that's where they have concert series is at. One awesome website just to check for things in the area is the South Shore, Indiana website, of which here's the URL. And with this, you can see things to do, outdoor recreation, hiking and biking trails. So this is definitely worth checking out. Lots of cool stuff to do in the area. The Indiana Dunes State and National Parks, those bring a lot of people to the area too. Yeah, so it begins in Crown Point and ends in Sibley Street and Hammond. But then it does connect to other road bike networks. Indiana Dunes State Park, we find ourselves there a couple times a year at least. Good hiking, there's good beaches there. All right, well, that concludes this video about Highland, Indiana. I hope you learned a ton. Again, I'd love to help you in your buying or selling journey. My contact information is here, also linked below. Look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you around town.